to today's edition of Windy Caddy's Corner. I'm off walking over to meet a friend and do some work today. Today's babble is going to be about forgiveness and puzzle pieces. I don't know if they're related to each other, but it's what I've been most focused on and thinking about lately. When I was down in St. Croix over the holidays, Mary and Barb pulled out a puzzle, and it was a bunch of like Dalmatian dogs, and their faces repeated all over the place, and Mary just started sorting out the pieces, and I was like, "Ooh, can I help?" And it was the first time in a very long time, I don't even know, maybe, could it be 30 years that I sat down and did a jigsaw puzzle, and maybe even longer since I did it with somebody else. And it was, my sister does them on vacation at the beach. It's like her tradition, but I don't really vacation at the beach. I haven't had a chance to do that. And it was really fun. It was really fun getting to do it with them. It was fun figuring out the pieces, and we, found our own way to work as a team. And since I got back, I installed a little jigsaw puzzle app on my phone, and I've enjoyed doing those. And even before my rediscovery of the jigsaw puzzle, I kept thinking that I kept having this like sense that the analogy being that in the chaos of my life and the devastation of some very close relationships going south on me and having to walk away from them for my own mental and physical health and safety, I had just dumped this puzzle pieces on the ground. And I often say it's like a junk drawer, right? And I think both analogies stand. But the puzzle piece, I just kept feeling the junk drawer. I feel like I can sort out batteries and rubber bands and extra change and all the keys. You have no idea what they go to. And figure out a way to toss them away or put it back pretty easily. That's a puzzle that's familiar to me. I'm very good with cleaning and clearing up stuff like that. But jigsaw puzzles, I found an interesting thing last night. I just thought about it while I was working on this one puzzle. I don't do the whole of the outside together before I start on the inside. I just don't. My style is, if I see a pattern matching while I'm looking for the pieces that go on the outside edges, I'll make that pattern start. And sometimes if it's a big enough or dramatic enough pattern, in the case of the Dalmatian dogs, that was not easy because it was the same dogs photographed differently throughout the whole piece. But some of the ones I do, it's like, a blue sky and a barn. So before I even have half of the outline done, I'll already have the barn finished because I see it. And it's just how my brain works. When I was married, my husband would call what I do and how I act in life and how I accomplish tasks a shotgun approach. Because a lot of people are very methodical, and they'll go, okay, what's step A? I'm going to finish that and go to step B, finish that and go to step C. And some people methodically work that way. I'm a little bit more of a dump it all out on the floor and let's figure it out. When I painted rooms in my house, I would start with a trim or start with a roller, and then I ended up rolling the door and rolling another wall, and I wouldn't just go do one wall, which is what you're supposed to do, and then turn the corner and keep going. But yesterday, I just thought to myself as I went, wow, this is the pattern that I solve puzzles with. It's a little random. I look for things that match. The things that match up are easy to match up. I go ahead and make it happen right then. I don't wait and tell myself to ignore the pieces that are easy to see just because I'm supposed to make this outline first. But part of me was saying, hey, you're supposed to be making the outline first. So there's a lot of complexity to this. But it's me accepting the fact, embracing the fact, celebrating the fact, for good and bad. I think that every style and technique has its own faults and bonuses, right? There's good and bad in everything, yin and yang. It's everywhere, and it's all the time. Can't separate that. So that's at least a step in the right direction for me. Something I hadn't been able to quite figure out was my random way of working, and I'd been belittled and challenged by people who didn't agree with, like, or want to do that style themselves, and they judged me fairly harshly and told me that I was a bad person. I was wrong. I learned I needed to learn how to change. But the truth of the matter is, it's just the way I see things, and it's the way that I work. And I've tried to improve my working habits, and I think there's definitely places to tweak and get better. But better for me, not better for you. I don't really care how you want to work, unless we're working on a project together. And if I'm working on a project by myself, why do you care how I work? Shouldn't matter. So I still think I have a bunch of puzzle pieces on the ground in my life, still trying to figure out what they are and how they all fit together. And maybe it's a couple of puzzles that are mixed together right now. I feel like I gotta get rid of some pieces, separate out the ones that belong in the story of my life I want it to be now and for my future. And forgiveness, right? That's the other thing we're going to talk about. So, I'm reading a book. I think I mentioned it. I've, again, forgotten. Forgiving the Unforgivable is the name of the book. I've forgotten the name of the author. I'm about more than halfway through it now. And, boy, it's eye-opening. Not only does it contain a personalized story that the woman who wrote the book had gotten from people who had to forgive the unforgivable, what they learned about it, what they recommend, and the details of what their losses were. But then there's pragmatic approaches to figuring out the responsibility and actually getting to the step of forgiveness. And I thought it was very interesting. I was born in October, so I'm a Libra, and the scales have always resonated with me. And feeling out of balance is something that I don't operate. I'm not operating at my prime when I'm feeling out of balance, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever. I'm extremely sensitive to it. Other people in the world aren't. The type, being Tauruses, can often just, blow through, right? Excuse me. So when they talked about it like being like an old school scale, like the one side and the other, you put the weights on the one side and the food on the other. Let's say it's a bunch of apples. If you take one apple off, it's lopsided. And in the bigger scheme of where it was specifically in the book, it was just like, oh, yes, okay. And then almost nearly immediately, she said that you have the ability to add your own weight to the other side, to the side of the apple. And it can be anything that you've garnered from it, in new relationships, new techniques, new tools. When your belief structures are changed, it can't help but to rattle you. And when one core belief comes into question in a marriage, I believe that a husband and wife should treat each other this way. And when an unforgivable injury, is the language she likes to use, one of the jargons, occurs, it rattles not only just your belief in what you think marriage could and should be, and what you think you're doing in the marriage, but it actually it's like a virus. It infects everything and everyone. Well, if I was wrong about marriage, what else am I wrong about? Am I wrong about all kinds of love? Am I wrong about friendships? And then when you have a friendship goes south, you go, well, there's the proof that one. Yep, I'm wrong about that too. Okay, so I can't trust anybody. If I love someone, they're going to hurt me. If I try harder, they're going to say I didn't do good enough. If I. And no matter how much we talk about it, and no matter how many plans we have to make sure we're open and honest with each other when we know we're going into a situation that has potential conflict in it, they will shut down, not tell me what they're thinking, not tell me what they think I've done wrong, not communicate with me at all. So there's never going to be communication between people who love each other, and then they're just going to come at you with rage and venom and tell you what a jerk you are, because that's how love works, right? No, none of that is love. But lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, failure with bosses, failure with love, failure with friends, failure. And I'm using the word failure because I could have done things differently to have a different outcome. They could have done things differently to have a different outcome. With better boundaries, I wouldn't have been as sensitive and as wounded by the people who were close to me. So, puzzle pieces for that puzzle are all over the floor too. What is love? What is love? Love is what I feel for Phil. He never yells at me. Well, that's not true. He does sometimes if he's hungry or wants to play or wants to lay where I'm laying. But doesn't hold grudges. He didn't hold yesterday's choice of dinner over to me today. He'll just judge the new one that I put down. So I love this park. Back at Herbert Von King. I love these trees. That's my favorite tree I'm always talking to. So, when it's confusing and complicated, and adult relationships always are, I'm going to come back to the simple. Love. The simple love. So I think probably one thing that's going to be coming up is coping mechanisms versus coping skills. That's for another day. I'm going to get off this phone and go try to find a squirrel. I got some food in my bag and I have not seen a squirrel. So is there a storm coming? What's happening? Anyway, thanks for joining me today in Caddyland, and we'll do it again when we do it. As always, I appreciate you. It's Thursday, so have a great week. And have a great weekend. Have a great week. Have a great year. Have a great February. Whatever. All those things. Talk to you later. Bye.